5 spots now. What's allowed him to handle that, and what do you think of how he's handled it and played those?
Well, number one, he's an incredibly intelligent man, but also a football player, right? His program, they do a great job. Obviously, St. Louis does a great job down there of exposing those guys to a variety of different teams and different things. But he came in intelligent. He had a really good freshman year and kind of, you hate to say this, but not plateaued, but maybe freshman year caught up with him a little bit, and then he had to learn what being a college football player was about. And then, in the spring when we repped him with some ones, he didn't have as good a spring as maybe I would have hoped. And went through some ups and downs there, and then came back this summer, and it was like a different guy. I mean, it was a much more focused, much more purposeful player in the way he approached everything. And then his attitude into fall camp has been awesome. We've played him at a variety of positions. He's embraced it. When I asked him to go center, he goes, "Okay, I'll try it." And just the willingness to help the team. But I think it also shows his versatility. He's very good at those interior positions, but he's also athletic enough he can go out and be an edge guy, right? And you saw some of that today later in practice where we're trying to get him some left tackle work too. So really a very talented player that we're going to have a choice to make here at some point. But really proud of him and just his maturity, he's able to handle that.
Are you pleased with where your group is at this far out from game one?
I don't know if I'm pleased with where we're at. I'm pleased with maybe the trajectory we're headed, but we've got a lot to clean up, and it's little things. It's the details. We had a bust today with the first group that shouldn't have happened, right? And so it's some of that. It's the demand for excellence that I want more of. I don't think you can ever be satisfied, but I feel like we've had a good camp. I'm pleased with the way camp has progressed, but I want more, need more, demand more, and those guys do too, and they know that, and that's kind of the benefit of working with a group of guys that are experienced, right? It's a little bit different than last year where guys were making their first starts, and JC, Melvin, those guys have played a lot of college football, and I'll bet not here, but they've played a lot of college football, so the expectations are higher, right? And that's, you're going to see that continuous with college football as this thing goes on to include the transfers and the free agents, basically, right? Is the expectation is much higher, and so my expectation's higher in that room. Krutz coming back, Getsky coming back. Behan traveled last year, being a veteran guy. Zai, 3-year veteran guy. Like, the demand's now, and they know that, and that's the standard we're taking. That's kind of the mentality we're taking into camp. And if you ask each of those guys, they'll tell you probably the same thing.
I know you got to be able to do everything, protect the passer and all that stuff. But does it start with run blocking in this scheme, and that yards per carry stat? Coach Bielema is kind of a run the ball, stop the run kind of guy. Is that where it starts with your group, you think?
100%. And I think any old lineman worth his salt would tell you that. Any old line coach worth his salt would tell you that. I don't know if you could ask every coordinator of that, but certainly as a run coach or as a run emphasis, an O-line coach, that's kind of our pride and joy, right, is running the football. And it comes down to a mentality of being physical. Now, that's not saying teams that don't run the football or teams that throw the ball more aren't physical, but we like to establish a dominant run game. We like to establish a line of scrimmage, a physical line of scrimmage. We place an emphasis on getting vertical movement and double teams, and we've had a lot of success at Illinois and then other places I've been of running the ball, and our running backs have had a lot of success doing that. And you look at some of the statistics, even some of the calls that we do statistically, the run yards per carry, the run efficiency maybe is a little bit more telling than maybe a yards per carry, but the run efficiency is a big stat we look at. And obviously we want to be physical, and it's hard to be physical in terms of getting knockdowns and changing the line of scrimmage when it's there's really no focus, there's no flow to what you're doing, right? Which is what we take a lot of pride in what we're doing. So yeah, absolutely, we like to be able to run the ball.
This might be a repeat, but with Josh Cruz is like he's just itching to get back out there and all frustrated. And what's important for him in this time where he can't yet, but just to keep him
important for him, well, number one, he stays involved, and he does. He stays involved. He's very smart. Comes in, he watches the film. He watches at night. The night of his surgery, he calls me at 4:00. He just got released, and he's like, "Coach, put that on the system so I can watch it tonight," right? And so he is, and he called Coach B, I think, at 11 and asked to be in a green jersey for practice tomorrow. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, that's just how he's made up. Is, we had to keep him out of there today, right? Just to in the scrimmage the other night, we put him in the box because otherwise, he'd want to be involved in everything. So just staying the course with him, trusting the process, getting back, knowing that it's coming, right? He wants to play, and that's just how he's wired. But he's been great as a leader, and obviously he's voted a captain. Guys respect him, and he's certainly the alpha of that room. And so to get him back will be great.
What's he done, or what can he do for like TJ and Kevin and Brandon, these guys that are getting those reps?
Yeah, just the nuances of the position, right? Like I heard him today yell at TJ for delaying on a back block. He kind of delayed on the nose before he got back, and then another time on a screen, and I hear Josh over there correcting him on, don't worry about this. There's more than just on a playbook. There's more than what somebody sits in there and draws a certain rule, right? There's game flows and how you play the game and things like that, and that's what he really understands. And so just giving that kind of presence to some of those guys that haven't played that is very, very valuable.
He's got more snaps than anybody.
Yeah.
In this offense. What's the next step for him last year?
Well, and that's a great question because obviously, I think everybody knows the type of player he is and has been and some of the struggles he's had. When he is on, he's very effective, and he has played, and that is valuable. What Zai gives us right now is a little bit of the old hand kind of guidance, right? Like the steady. He's been in the fight. He knows, he's not going to panic. He knows what to do, and he's got that veteran leadership that he does give. He's gotten votes for leadership councils and captaincies and things of that nature that which was encouraging because he is a leader, and he's been through a lot of negativity, and he's been through a lot of failure, and we benched him last year at one point, and so for him to have that maturity to come and say, this is how you get through this, and this is how I recover from this is how I get better here. It all adds value to the line. So this year we're looking for consistency with him having his best year of football. He has had his best camp. He's got his limitations. I think we all know that, but he's got his strengths, and those need to shine through, right? He's got to play to his strengths.
How was Kevin, compared to the spring to now? What has changed with him?
Well, he knows the offense really well, so he's done a nice job coming in and learning the offense. We've played him in a couple different positions. He's going to continue to have to develop his body, get stronger. But he's very versatile. Whereas in the spring, I kind of kept him at one spot. With injuries or guys need to fill in. I mean, he's played center, he's played guard, so he's got some maturity to him. He's got a very poised presence about him out there. He doesn't get riled very easily. He's really worked hard on his double teams and not being in kind of a bad body position as he continues to climb to the second level. So that's been a real benefit on him on the backside. So he's gotten better in a lot of areas.
Is it fear in Brandon kind of getting thrown out to the wolves sometimes, just like Brandon was?
Yeah.
How are they handling it? Just
they're handling it, I guess. This age group, right? Like anybody, it's very difficult. Especially when you come in as a freshman expecting to play, and I want them to feel that way. But we got a good line this year, and they get here and they understand that it's a lot different than high school football, and that the expectation's a lot greater, and it's not just going out there and being the biggest or the strongest anymore. It's not just even being the most athletic anymore. And what worked at the high school level is not going to work here, and so sometimes that's a hard lesson. Sometimes it's a hard lesson because I don't have a lot of sympathy for that. And that's part of growing up. That's part of becoming a college football player is going, breaking down that part and that humility and then building it back up so that it's forged through the hardship of camp. And they're both right in the thick of it. So you guys can read into that what you want, but they both have incredible talent. Everything we saw in recruiting is there. They just got to learn how to be college football players.
What's the ceiling for J.C. Davis? I mean, you plugged him in at left tackle down day one, and he's still there now. What's kind of his ceiling, and what have you seen from him during?
I don't know that he's got a ceiling, to be honest with you. I think he's a great player, and he's got the chance to do something pretty special. And he's not there yet, but he's got the talent. And so, what I like about him is his work ethic. I mean, you guys are out there at practice. He'll go over there and get reps on the defense, and he'll service for the threes. I mean, that type of selflessness is rare for a veteran guy, right? A very high-prized veteran guy that knows, I think, his value, but also is coachable. I mean, Coach Bell has known him for a long time, and he gets on him, right? And I coach him hard, and I know he's coached hard at New Mexico, and those guys. like guys like that are going to have success because they can take the coaching, they can strive to get better. I mean, just little things like it's probably not easy for a guy like that, as recruited as he was, to come in here and the first thing I tell him is that you're not physical enough, right? And all he did was try to get more and more physical, right? You see him finishing blocks, you see him putting guys on the ground, you see him straining, and sometimes it's not perfect, but I'm like, God dang, that's awesome, man. Like at least like he's got that hunger to get better, and that's what's gonna, I think, propel him to new heights. So I don't think he has a ceiling. I think he can go as far as he wants to go.
Maybe a dumb question, but to have a potential star like that at an important position, what's that do for your O-line to have an anchor like that, especially a veteran guy?
Well, I think it raises the standard for everybody on that line, right? And it has. Like him and Getsky work great together. Obviously, Kreutz is in the middle holding it down, but then guys like Brandon Hansen and Brandon Henderson and Zai and Melvin and whoever else, Hunter Whiteneck, all those guys, right? They gotta raise their game, and it has, right? And then you've got a whole starting group that has done that. And I don't want to say pulling away from everybody else, but everybody else has to rise their game up too, right? And so I think that everybody uses that song of iron sharpens iron, right? But it's as true as can be when you get a unit like that, where everybody's trying not to let each other down and be the best that they can be for one another. That's when you have something, right? And that's kind of what we had in that 22 line, Not to say we didn't have it in those other lines either. Like, obviously Palcho, Vidarian, Doug, they all have had great careers and they're all playing in the NFL, but we were kind of patchworked all over at guard, right? It took us a while to find that lineup with Badovinac and all those guys. So now you got a group of guys that have forged that together, and a couple of those guys know it's their last shot, right? And JC and obviously Mel's starting over, and Kreutz knows that what happened last year is not good enough, and so I think that's in Getsky too, right? And Zai too. So you like I've kind of said all along, they're learning from the hardship that they went through last year, and it's coming to fruition now in camp. So I'm excited to see where they can go.